This is one in a series of videos where I look at coaching books and distill down some of the ideas within the books to help you to immediately get applicable thoughts, techniques, and strategies from very well regarded coaching books that you can apply right away. So, the book that we're taking a look at today is Coaching A to Z, written by Dr. Haesun Moon, who is based in Toronto, Canada. I recently saw her at the 2025 ICF Converge event in San Diego, California, and it was really a fantastic talk. I liked it so much that I immediately went out and bought the book and read it in its entirety. I'm now reading it a second time and enjoying it just about as much the second time as I did the first time, and reinforcing some of the ideas in the book. So let's go over some of the ideas here. So first off, Haesun's definition of coaching is curating stories of possibilities, purpose, and progress. Just understanding this will help you to get the gist of the book, and I'll explain more as we go through. What Haesun likes to do with her clients is to focus more on what they're doing well already and less on what they're not doing, what's lacking. This reminds me of the idea of coaching with compassion as opposed to coaching for compliance, right? Coaching for compliance is the idea that we need to fix the client. They need to align themselves with how the organization sees them in their role. That's coaching for compliance. Coaching with compassion is looking at the person in a more holistic fashion and focusing more on the positive as opposed to what's lacking. And Haesun is very much committed to that, as you will discover if you read the book. What I really like about the book is that it is set up in small chapters that are very easy to read. You can read a chapter in about 5 minutes or so and digest something meaningful and valuable in that short few minutes of reading. And she has the chapters set up as A to Z. Each chapter focuses on a single letter and word, and then she expands on that in the chapter. There's a chapter on instead. Oftentimes, when people come to you with complaints about things that aren't working in their life, it represents a violation of their values. So instead of focusing on the issues, ask them, what would you like to see instead? And they will then talk about this preferred scenario that they would like to see unfold. And then you can ask, and what would that mean for you if that were to happen? And this gets to this idea that she introduces in the book at the very beginning called the dialogic orientation quadrant. Sounds pretty lofty, right? Well, she has studied communication extensively towards her PhD. And the book is essentially about the words we use. Coaching is all about communication. And the words we use in our coaching sessions, the questions we ask, may make a big difference in our clients' lives. With the dialogic orientation quadrant, there are 4 quadrants, and 2 are positive, and 2 would be construed as more negative. There is the resourceful past, as opposed to the troubled past. And then there is the preferred future, as opposed to the dreaded future. She believes that keeping clients in the upper levels of the dialogic orientation quadrant, focused on the resourceful past and the preferred future, keeps the conversation on a positive note and helps the client tap into what's worked in the past and what would they like to see happen in the future. So this is a really interesting concept that I was introduced to when I saw her live and then learned more about by reading the book. Another concept in here is this idea of focusing on resources as opposed to deficits. She embraces the scaling question, which is quite common in coaching. I actually have a separate video on the scaling question and share some of my thoughts on it. Haesun's approach to the scaling question is quite different than most coaches. It's common to ask a client On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being absolutely awesome and exactly where you want to be, and 1 being the opposite, where would you say you are now? And clients will typically share whatever that number is, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. The coach will often then say, what would it take for you to get to a 10? That's looking at the situation from a deficit frame as opposed to a resource frame. Haesun's perspective is, okay, you're at a 6. What got you to a 6? That's interesting, right? Focusing on what got them to the number where they are now. Obviously, they've done some positive things to get to where they are now. And instead of focusing on the deficit between where they are now and the 10, she might say, and where would you like to be? Well, I'd like to get to a half a point higher, or a point higher, or 2 points higher. Okay. So they choose where they would like to be instead of the coach choosing, right? Coaching is about partnership. Coaching is about autonomy and self-direction, self-empowerment. So the client chooses where they would like to be. And then you can ask, and what would that mean for you to get to that number? Another way she looks at the scaling question is, if the client says, I'm currently at a 6, she might ask, and have you been at a higher number in the recent past? And the client might say, yeah, actually, I was at an 8 on this occasion. And what contributed to that? What led you to feeling like you were at an 8 on that day? See, notice that it's focusing on the positive and the fact that they've already been at a higher number in the past, in the resourceful past. Something else that I thought was really meaningful is related to the classic question, which is revolving around setting the agreement. When the client brings an objective into the session, the coach will often ask, and why is this important? Or what makes this the most important objective for us to focus on today? Haesun's question is a little bit different. And what difference would that make? What difference would that make helps to get to the deeper meaning behind their choice. And it doesn't need to stop there. You can then ask again, and what difference would that make? And what difference would that make? By asking the question a few times, it gets to ultimately what is the deepest meaning behind the objective. Asking only once, what makes this the most important item for us to talk about today, won't necessarily get to that deepest meaning. It will get to deeper meaning, but you could go further. So that's something that I got from this book and will certainly be using going forward. So these are all ideas that came from the book Coaching A to Z, which is a great resource that you can tap into multiple times and just take little nuggets and try them. There are also reflection questions at the end of each chapter so that you can also contemplate your own life, your own stories, the own possibilities, and the progress that you have made. So consider that. If there are threads that are woven through the book, one, it's about remaining positive and focused on what's already working, right? So that would be thread number 2, what's already working. And then it would be to get to a deeper meaning through that question. And what difference would that make? That gets to a deeper meaning. And what's already working for you gets to the resourceful past that they have. And what would you like to see instead gets to the preferred future. So these are the themes that are swirling throughout the book that really resonated with me because that's the way I look at life, what's working, what would you like to see happen, what contributes to that you already have within you. You may feel some shades of appreciative inquiry here in these methods in this book. So I highly recommend that you get the book Coaching A to Z from Dr. Haesun Moon. I don't think you will regret it at all. And I think you'll find it a resource that you'll turn to again and again. If you have read the book and you've taken other nuggets from it that have helped you in your coaching, please place those ideas into the comments so that others can see and benefit from your own reflections on reading the book. If you have questions about some of the concepts that I've shared, post those in the comments as well. And you're also welcome to email me at michael@baeareaexecutivecoach.com. Now, if you'd like to go deeper with me and tap into my many years of coaching experience and what I bring to coach training and education, consider enrolling in the Center for Executive Coaching, where I serve as a faculty member and have done so since 2019. I lead online classes most weeks of the year. I lead mentor coaching programs a few times a year. And I also lead in-person seminars several times a year. So chances are there is some way that I can work with you directly, depending on your style of learning, your level of budget, and of course, your interest in being a professional coach, one who might be one of the leading executive coaches in the world, which is what we focus on developing you to become at the Center for Executive Coaching. Visit my blog site at BAECtraining.com to learn more and to tap into other resources that are there to help you to be effective as a professional coach. You might also follow me on LinkedIn and also follow the company page, Bay Area Executive Coach, where we share resources each week for coaches. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, as more videos are on the way with more book reviews coming. Thank you very much.